Hey, what's up guys, Arava here and welcome back to another episode of my F1 2018 Career Mode, episode 159 today for the Hungarian Grand Prix in Season 8. If you guys did miss the previous one, then be sure to go check the one out before you see this one. Quite a dramatic episode indeed. We come to the Hungaroring and pretty much the start now of the second half of the season proper, and we've got some upgrades for the likes of Red Bull there. Obviously, Renault and ourselves at Alfa Romeo Racing been staying put, but Red Bull now pretty much level pegging. You know, you can't even tell on the chart there. There's a difference between Renault and Red Bull, so the Red Bull cars might be pretty good, but they were surprisingly weak last episode, so we'll have to see about that. And Mercedes also with some upgrades there to try and close up, so it may well be a four-way fight by the time we get to the end of the season there, with the two Mercedes cars catching up eventually away from that midfield fight of the Ferrari, Toro Rosso and McLaren then. But we go into qualifying, and of course, like I said, the second half pretty much the start of the proper second half, because last race was kind of, you know, obviously with 21 races a bit awkward here, and so it's a kind of a reset point, and Hungary should be a pretty okay one for us. I mean, the tyre wear and traffic can be tricky in the race, so that'll be a thing to watch out for. But obviously, we also hit some challenges in qualifying, because you can clearly see getting held up massively by Lance Stroll on the first flying lap, so that was quite frustrating here. There's no rain forecast for the entire race weekend, so we do have other opportunities to set other lap times. We had a bit of a screen freeze at the end of that first flying lap as well, so that didn't help us on the last corner, going a little bit wide and off circuit. So hopefully the second run can be better. It needs to be better because we're down in P14, so not ideal right now. I believe my teammate is up there in provisional pole position, or on the front row at least, and so we have a lot of time to find, and we do find over a second so far as we go towards sector 3 then. So at the moment, Grosjean ahead of us, Bottas behind, but we should be able to pop this up into the top times hopefully. But we have enough time to set a third flying lap as well, so we have this run and then another, so we'll see how this goes. But I was quite some way off the pace in that first run, so this second run might not even be enough. But we chuck it in fourth gear down to third momentarily to get some power and revs. DRS open across the line. It's P7 that is, and so that's not enough to get near the front row for now. We're down to P9 by the time we go through into the last few corners for our third and final flying lap of the afternoon on Saturday. Then we are up on our time. We find some more time in the last corner, keeping it in fourth gear this time, trying to get more momentum there, taking a bit of a curbing, screen freeze for good measure across the line, and we're up into P3, so that's a solid time. But in the end, it will be Charles Leclerc, my teammate, on pole position there, Hamilton in second place, and Fernando Alonso, thankfully for me and our team, doesn't have a very good qualifying session. He's down in P12 with a major mistake in qualifying there, so for the Drivers' Championship's sake, that's going to be mega. And for the race, it seems like our car has some decent pace carrying on from last episode as well, where Leclerc overtook Fernando Alonso in the race and went on to dominate that Grand Prix in terms of pace. The Toro Rossos, again, look surprisingly good and have beaten their more senior team, the Red Bull Honda cars, so that's surprising as well. Like Germany, very weird to see that, but I guess we'll see how the race pace goes for those two teams respectively. So let's go to the grid then and see how things shake up in Sunday. But it's a very good start on Saturday with Fernando Alonso down there in P12.
We've seen some astonishing Grand Prix here over the years, haven't we? The drama of 2015 is a recent example. Jenson Button's first win on a wet track in 2006, or in 1997, Damon Hill's heartbreak in the Arrows after a late gearbox failure cost him what would have been the team's only ever victory. What a wonderful place this is to come racing today. We're northeast of Budapest for the race today at the 2.7-mile Hungaroring circuit. 14 corners here, 8 to the right and 6 to the left, on a track where downforce is king and passing is notoriously difficult. Anthony Davidson is alongside me as usual for the race today. Let's talk about the engineer. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
It's been a really solid year so far. There have been some incredible standout performances, but what's really impressed me has been the consistency. With this kind of form, I'm expecting another great race today.
And so with that, let's have a look at the starting grid for this Hungarian Grand Prix for Season 8 of my F1 2018 Career Mode. On pole position is Charles Leclerc, and it's a front row lockout for the Alfa Romeo Racing boys after Lewis Hamilton has been handed some sort of grip penalty for engine changes. So Max Verstappen in third place and Sergei Sorokin, the Russian, in P4 in the Toro Rosso. Then comes Van Dorn and Pierre Gasly, for Hamilton down to P7 with that penalty, with Ricciardo next to him. Then you've got Carlos Sainz, Brendan Hartley, Nico Hülkenberg and Fernando Alonso starting down in P12. Romain Grosjean P13, Bottas next with all Perez and Sebastian Vettel on the next row. Kevin Magnussen and Kimi Raikkonen on the second last row, with Ocon in the Ferrari, a disappointing 19th place, and Lance Stroll last place on the grid for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Alright, so here we are on the front row, surprisingly, for the Hungarian Grand Prix, with a gift of Hamilton having a grid penalty of some sort to move him down the order to P7, I think it was. So with us in P2 and Fernando Alonso in P12, we have a very good chance this race of getting some good championship points and taking that lead a little bit further than the one measly point is at right now. But you can see strategy-wise today, it's either a one-stop or a two-stop. The two-stop mathematically is the faster strategy. So we're going to go with that, go for an undercut, because it is quite powerful around here, I remember from previous seasons. And we'll try go aggressive there with 2 laps of fuel to play around with and go nice and aggressive on the rich mix there during the stint, especially on the soft tire stint where we're trying to get that undercut when we make those early pit stops. So here we go then to 5 red lights for the Hungarian Grand Prix. A front row lockout for the Alfa Romeo Racing team here at the start of this Grand Prix. 5 red lights are out and we're underway. It's a bit of a slow start there for us. Leclerc gets away well to turn 1. Verstappen is on the left-hand side. The Toro Rosso, the Russian Sorokin on the inside there. And so we're tentative under braking, but we're going to go try and slice this car through the middle of both of them and get back up into P2. Verstappen, though, with a brilliant exit, and he gives us a good old fight. We give him a squeeze for good measure to the left-hand side there. He's still on our inside there. We're going the long way around on the outside, the left-hander. To the right, we'll have the better line, and we can squeeze out Verstappen there with the racing line favouring us. And so we're up into P2. Behind me, I look behind because it looks like the Toro Rosso was going to attack the Mercedes car, and indeed he has. Look at the top left there. Sorokin is up into P3. The Russian doing really great. Of course, he has had many years of being in the Williams car before in this career mode, lowly down the order, so he must be loving life in the Toro Rosso there. That seems to be going from strength to strength, really, in the last 2 episodes. We now move on, though, to lap number 4, and we're going to come in for a very early pit stop then, so really wasting no time in these highlights of this Grand Prix to be in for that first pit stop, because nothing really happened in that first stint of 4 laps, really. Leclerc was unfortunately getting away from us a little bit, so like Germany, it seems Leclerc has finally woken up this season. He actually has a lot of pace over me, and I couldn't really match him at all in those ultras, so that might be a bit of the tyre wear kicking in, because like I said, the undercut is quite powerful around here. I was feeling the tyre wear a tad on those ultras, so kind of nice to come in on lap 4, because my default was actually lap 5, but then my engineer on the fly said, do you want to come in 1 lap earlier? I said yes, because the tyres weren't feeling that great. So now we push on these soft tyres and try and do the best job we can. But meanwhile, Leclerc continues on in P1. The Russian is up into P2, Sorokin in the Toro Rosso car, followed by Verstappen. But as we go through and filter through the entire gaggle of cars, there is Fernando Alonso down in P12 still at the moment in this Grand Prix on lap 5 or 6 this is. He's on the soft tyres though, so he's going to try a one-stop, I would assume, from soft tyre to mediums. There might be a few people ahead of us trying a one-stop from ultras to mediums, and of course I'm doing a two-stop from ultras to 2 sets of soft tyres. We try and go down the inside of Sebastian Vettel, but nearly get our nose chopped off there as he just kind of basically cuts across us and gets very aggressive with his defence, fair play, and so we can't overtake him. So frustrations already with some traffic, so this will be my only hindrance in this strategy is really the traffic here, and so at the moment I can already tell maybe losing some time, so we're going to have to try and be a little bit aggressive with these overtakes. Maybe we can't waste any more time. We go around the outside of Vettel there, planting the power, and it's a very nice move up the hill, then go defensive to the inside there, double lock up as we try and slam down and slow down the car just to try and get that place over Vettel and book that in. But we're going to have to be aggressive with these passes, and if we can't, we're just going to have to try and get the power down once we get in clean air, make up for it with the pace we know we have in this car, because obviously Leclerc got pole legitly, with no penalties involved from other cars, so we know the car has the pace. We now waltz around the outside of Sergio Perez to make it look very easy there on the outside. So now a bit of clean air until the car ahead of us, which is Kevin Magnussen, so let's try and make the most of it there with DRS open as well, but we've got a lot of cars to overtake ahead of him, and there's still a lot of people going out. Obviously the likes of Alonso, we're going to go longer on their set of soft tyres. We come through the last corner then, or the second last corner I should say, into the last corner on lap number 7 onto lap number 8, practically pushing Magnussen through that last corner nearly as we get very close. Open DRS and try and get some speed there with the slipstream, and we're going to size up a dive bomb to the inside of turn 1 there. We have to make sure we make this stick, and we are going to do so as we go to the inside there. Turn 1 booked in, and now we'll close up on Valtteri Bottas if we can on this next lap, and then we've got quite a decent amount of clean air to the next car, which it looks like it's a Toro Rosso, unfortunately. So I think that's Sergei Sorokin that has overtaken us with the pit stop, because we've been stuck in that traffic. But we're on a faster tyre. I'm pretty sure he's going to be on medium tyres, and so that'll be the advantage we have in this strategy as we now go sailing round the outside of Valtteri Bottas there and flexing the muscles of this car very much so, and it seems very, very planted on these soft tyres. As we move on then through this Grand Prix down the main straight, and that is going to be Pierre Gasly, I think that is, in the Red Bull Honda, who has just got out ahead of us there, so we've been jumped by 3 cars then due to the traffic. So the undercut was going to, in theory, work out, but the traffic we've hit has held us up. So there is Sorokin. Then you've got Verstappen, I think that is, or Hulkenberg, either one is behind him. And then you've got Pierre Gasly ahead of us. We have to try and make those 3 passes. But also ahead of us, that's Leclerc, and he's actually trailing Fernando Alonso because Leclerc has made his pit stop, and Fernando Alonso is still going on, along with the other Mercedes car. Both of those guys on soft tyres going for the longer first stint and then pitting onto their medium tyres. So Leclerc for now is in P3 on the track, but that will turn into a net P1, I would assume. But that's how things look at the moment in this Grand Prix. We're now closing up on Gasly, sniffing around on the left-hand side there, trying to size up a move with DRS, but he's going to have DRS off the cars ahead of him, so it's going to be quite tricky, actually. And so this might be a bit more traffic. We've got cars coming out the pit lane there. That's going to be very close for Carlos Sainz, Gasly's teammate, as we send one down the inside. Catch Gasly napping into the inside of turn 1, up into P8 now, that is, but his teammate has just about made it stick to the inside of that is Romain Grosjean in the other Haas, who's also very much out of sync in this Grand Prix, I think. I'm pretty sure he's held up Verstappen so much to that second last corner that we can make a move to the outside, to the inside then for the last corner. A very nice move on Verstappen, and now we'll get on the back of the Frenchman. DRS pass, this should be pretty easy. The Haas car very much is a midfield to lower end team there, so we should be able to close up pretty quickly in sector 1, I should hope. In turn 1 we can't do anything. We get a little bit close to the gearbox, but just not enough to make a dive to the inside there, so we have to wait patiently for that move to come through, but hopefully it will be very soon rather than later, because then we can try and get on the back of Carlos Sainz. And here we go now on the outside, feeding the power through to the inside for the next corner, squeeze him out on the racing line, and there we go, up into P6. Good stuff there. Gaggle of cars behind us can fight and squabble, and now we'll use this free air to try and close up onto Carlos Sainz, and then hopefully close up to this top fight, which is still at the moment Hulkenberg in the lead this Grand Prix from Fernando Alonso in second place. Leclerc is still in third, just biding his time. To be fair, he doesn't need to make an overtake here because these two, Alonso and Hulkenberg, will eventually make a pit stop. Then in P4 is Sergei Sorokin, the Russian, in the Toro Rosso. P5, Carlos Sainz, and then you can see myself darting away in the background, dancing the car around the Hungaroring, trying to close up on Carlos Sainz. And both myself and the Spaniard have closed up to the Russian in the Toro Rosso car, so this might be a bit of a double overtake pass, potentially. Let's see as we now go down the main straight. Carlos Sainz has DRS and he has other ideas. Instead of being overtaken by myself, he's going to try and overtake the Toro Rosso first and go waltzing on the outside there. So these two side by side are going to hold each other up, so we're just going to be patient and see when we can make our move and pounce on either the Russian or the Spaniard, as those two are still neck and neck through the down the hill section on the right hand side. They're going to slow each other up so much so that we're going to go to the right hand side there, catch them napping, go for the move on the outside for the double overtake there. That is going to be a wonderful pass, but Carlos Sainz is still there side by side with us. Climbing up the hill then on the inside this time rather than the outside there. We get very aggressive with Carlos Sainz. I've got to admit that wasn't really on purpose. That was more just me going wide with the understeer of the curbing a little bit, pushing me there. So trying to give Sainz as much room as we can on the inside. As we go to the left-hander, we're on the outside, but that will turn to the next inside. We'll have to squeeze him out, and also Sorokin gets very opportunistic and gets amongst it and overtake Carlos Sainz as well. So a little bit on the fine edge there, we'll admit, but we're up into P4. And as we go across the line on lap 16, we've got Alonso and Hulkenberg finally in for their first pit stop of the afternoon, and then one and only stop onto medium tyres. And so order is resumed back up into P2. It's a 1-2 foul from Air Racing once again, but of course we're going to make another pit stop. But for now, we're just getting the hammer down on towards lap 17. Purple lap time sets, you can see in clean air. I still have some pace, even though these tyres are worn out. The car has a lot of raw pace there, so I'm hoping that we can try and push away and eventually try and make the second pit stop and be in an okay position. We're on lap 20 now, so 3 laps later. I got to admit, though, on lap 20, the tyres were feeling very second-hand, so I'm not too sure, to be honest. The second stop here is going to kill us a little bit because we're going to be down to about P7 or P8-ish, so we have a lot of places to make up and not a lot of time in this Grand Prix. So the 2-stop on paper, mathematically was the faster strategy, but because of all that traffic we hit in the first stint, it really has hurt us quite a fair bit. So this is going to be a real fight back to even maybe finish ahead of Fernando Alonso, who's going to jump us right now as we come out in the pit lane into P8, like I said. And Alonso is ahead of us because in the lead of this Grand Prix is Charles Leclerc, then doing his thing on the medium tyres. Second place is Carlos Sainz in the first of the Red Bull Hondas. Then you've got, I think that's Max Verstappen in third place there. That's Raikkonen who's being lapped. That's Verstappen in P3, Gasly P4. That is Fernando Alonso then in P5 in the Renault. So his one stop, starting on the soft tyres, going to mediums, has worked out an absolute treat there. And so he's 3 positions ahead of us as we're trailing in P8. And we've got all the work to do now to close up the gap, but albeit on a faster set of tyres. So that's the only thing we've got going for us. We've got a faster car, faster tyres, so it's in our hands basically to get the hammer down and try and close up these places and try and re-overtake Alonso for the sake of our championship lead following this Grand Prix. Remember, going into this race we had a 1-point lead, and now we've got a safety car, and so that might just help things out, because now we've got a finite amount of laps left. We've got a safety car period, which will really make this a sprint race to the end, and we are on faster tyres compared to everyone else, so that's really great. But what's not great is it's because Charles Leclerc, our teammate, the race leader, is out this Grand Prix. That is why the safety car got out. Oh, it's an engine failure, smoking away. That's such a shame there. Leclerc, last race's winner, and it was looking pretty damn good for 2 wins on the trot for Leclerc, but he's out this Grand Prix with a massive engine failure, smoking away. But that is a blessing in disguise for us, because that allows us to bunch up, and so now we have a much easier task ahead of us of trying to jump Fernando Alonso, who's only 2 places ahead of us. And so I've got to say thank you very much to Leclerc's engine for blowing up for my sake, but obviously for the team game and for his sake, not very good. But here we go now on the restart, straight away pouncing on Nico Hülkenberg. Round the outside we go, planting the power there. We've got Raikkonen, who's a lap car there, so we get in the middle of him and do a bit of dancing on the right hand side there. And now we're going to go defensive to the inside to make sure we get that place on Hülkenberg, but he's going to give me a good fight there, to be fair, on the outside of turn 1. But now it's just me, some tarmac, and then Fernando Alonso straight away as we move on to the second last corner, lap 26. So just a moment ago it was looking like a bit of a grim scenario in terms of trying to overtake Alonso in this Grand Prix, but now we're right up his shaft, practically pushing him through these corners as his medium tyres just aren't as grippy as my softs. But at the moment you can see he's got some advantage of the Renault. Look at how much of a rocket ship that Renault worst car is, flying away down the straight there. So we're going to have to work a little bit harder in the corners, and I'm desperately trying to keep up with him. We double lock up into turn 1, trying to desperately try and catch up some time and find time in the brake zone. But we move on then to lap 27, on to lap 28. This is, we're a lot closer to Alonso, but it's still he just has the speed there. DRS are not enabled until now, but he's just pulling away so much. The acceleration and the mid-range of gears appears to be so good for the Renault guys. But we've got some battling up ahead of Gasly and Verstappen, so that fight might just hold up Alonso enough for us to overtake him potentially, as we're going to try and close up quite a fair bit at the end of sector 1 here. Gasly a bit of a bottleneck apparently, because obviously Carlos Sainz was in P1 then, I think, because you got I think it was Sainz and Gasly were behind Leclerc before the DNF, so I assume it's Carlos Sainz in the lead of this Grand Prix. But here we go now, the crucial move for the championship points today between myself and Fernando Alonso. Side by side we go. On the inside the chicane, he squeezed us quite a fair bit, but we are just about going to make that work to the inside there, up into P4. Amazing pass there up the hill, and really nice battle there for a little bit, but eventually the tyre we have will win out, and so we can close up on Max Verstappen then as the sun really comes out here in Hungary. I'm going to try and make a move on the outside there, a bold move there, very unorthodox place to really make a pass, but we're going to try and make it stick. But to the inside in the second last corner, I can almost see that Verstappen was always going to cut across me there, so the last minute I backed out of that, otherwise I probably would have had my front wing chopped off there by the Dutchman, who's getting very aggressive elbows out, and you can see the gap that has formed to Pierre Gasly way out ahead, so that's how much time Verstappen is losing me. So here we go now with DRS. It's going to be a simple pass to the inside of turn 1. He has a good brake zone, but we're going to squeeze him out on the exit there, plant the power, DRS open, he's still there, so just like lap 1, we're going to have to try and squeeze him out on the outside for the next left-hander. We're going to do that just about, and we'll be booking in 3rd place. And now we'll try and see what we can do about closing up to Pierre Gasly and Carlos Sainz. But before we get to that, we've got a fight between Fernando Alonso and Verstappen. Then on the very next lap, I believe this is, Alonso on the outside of the Dutchman then. And the Renault clearly has some good straight line speed, pace there. So it's going to be a pretty simple pass, I think, in the end for Alonso there to the inside for the next left-hander. And he's up into P4 then. But as you can see, I'm just ahead in P3. So we're not really getting away too much. And to be honest, I'm not really catching the Red Bull guys that much really. We now move on to the dying stages of the Grand Prix, and these are the scenes for P1 and P2. That is Carlos Sainz, who's been leading this Grand Prix for a fair bit, but Gasly now is right up his chuff, and that's because Carlos Sainz has some sort of big issue on the car that's slowing him down, and so this will be a pretty simple pass to the two Red Bull guys, I guess, cooperating in a way, and Gasly with a very easy pass into P1. So the Frenchman, the reigning world champion, will take the lead of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz down to P2, and you can see how much time and speed he's losing through those corners already, and how much distance Gasly's getting away. And so here we are in P3, Alonso in P4, and both of us could potentially catch Sainz and overtake him. And we're going to get to the last lap of the Grand Prix. So how dramatic is this? On the last lap, we might have a chance to get P2 in this Grand Prix. If I'm clever about it, I could try and get P2 right at the end here and try and get Alonso to be still in P4 and basically have Sainz in between us to get us some more points on Alonso. So here we go now. The move on the outside, that was really nice pass, albeit obviously Sainz going very slow, but we make it work on the outside. We're up into P2, and now as we go through the final two corners though, Fernando Alonso is tucked up right behind Carlos Sainz, but it looks like he can't overtake his fellow countryman just quite through those last corners. Through the last corner, Gasly wins the Grand Prix, myself second place, and Fernando Alonso will come home in P4, so that's some very good points in the Drivers' Championship.
Podium. Excellent drive. The team have worked especially hard this weekend, and this is a fantastic reward.
A great win then for the Red Bull team today. Anthony, what do you think made the difference here?
Without a doubt, the safety car changed everything today. The key to their success was keeping calm and reacting to the situation quickly. We've seen teams in the past throw away wins because they were too hesitant, but here they were decisive, and that's allowed them to take the advantage.
So with that P2, Fernando Alonso stays put in P4. So thank you very much, Carlos Sainz, for just about limping across the line in P3. It means we extend our lead in the championship very nicely there, from away from 1 point to 7 points then. So that's good work. Leclerc unfortunately goes down the order with that DNF. That was really unfortunate, but like I said at the time, a blessing in disguise for us, because otherwise our two-stop pretty much backed us into a corner of traffic in just an impossible scenario. But the safety car really helped us out there and got us up into that P2 position. I guess also helped out Pierre Gasly in a way, where, you know, with that issue with the Sainz, they were closer together. So Gasly can also thank Leclerc really for that race win, the Hungarian Grand Prix. But overall then, for me personally, excellent race in the end actually, but not so much for Leclerc obviously. So you have to review what happened with his car unfortunately and what caused that issue. But guys, if you did enjoy that episode, be sure to hit that like button. Let me know your thought in the comments below. If you are new around here, you can subscribe for weekly Formula One content. I've been Arava. I'm just today, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.